Okay, so let's begin, guys. We are going to start out with something really simple here. We are going to start out with a syntax error. Syntax errors are super easy to create because you are going to create lots of them. So let's just put in a simple print function, which we've looked at many times before. And we need to put some sort of statement in there since it's a print function. And I'm going to type in that Wookiee cookies are extra chewy. All right. All right, and now I'm going to end it like that, okay? Now, notice what I did there is some of you already probably caught my mistake, but I'm not the most perceptive person in the world, and so I'm going to go ahead and run this program, right? So we're going to have to save our file now, right, since we're going to run it. So you guys can go up to run, hit F5, and you got to save it. What I would like for you guys to do here is, in this case, because I've already got it saved, you can do that. What you guys probably want to save this to is we're still in our general introduction, so you might call this general introduction 2, which is what I called it right there. I put in class, and that's because I have 2 files, one that I've made and one that we do in class. And when I tried to run that, I'm going to hit it again. It tells me right there, right away, a little dialog box comes up and says syntax error, EOL while scanning string literal, and that's going to, you'll learn sort of how to read some of those later. But right now, it's going to highlight that there's a problem here. In other words, according to the computer, it doesn't think I've ended my string, right? It doesn't think I've ended my statement. Why? Exactly. I didn't do another quotation mark. So as it is, it thinks that this right here, that second parenthesis there, that closed parentheses, the computer thinks that that's still part of the string. It thinks that it's going to print that off. It's waiting for my second set of quotes, right? So I could go in there and I could put them in here, all right? And that would finish off the program okay. Now that is going to be correct as far as syntax is concerned. Or I could, if I really wanted to, if I really wanted that little closed parenthesis in there, I could put my parenthesis or my quotations after that, but I still have to close those parentheses. And now it highlights it. It's going to look happier. Notice how this is all in green right here, right? So now I've got that in there. Now, personally, I don't actually want that closed parentheses in there, but I did want to show you that you can include that as part of the string that prints off, okay? So now if I run this thing, F5, okay to save it. Now it's going to print out what I said. Wookiee cookies are extra chewy. Okay? And then it's just fine. So that's all a syntax error is, really. It's you missed your punctuation somewhere. While in a natural language, the language we speak, we can be pretty flexible with the use of, commas and quotation marks and periods. I mean, just look at a lot of famous literature. Punctuation wasn't really all that important, especially when it comes to like poetry. But your computer is not a natural language. It will not assume anything about what you mean. You have to type in exactly what you mean. So that's a syntax error. So that's a nice simple one. Okay. So I'm just going to put a little thing in here. Hashtag with a syntax error. We omit, in this case, we omitted like a quotation, or it could be something like a closed parentheses or anything of that nature, okay? That's going to be our syntax error. If we don't get that right, our program will not run as it immediately did not let us run. All right, well, that's all good and fine, okay? But that's not exactly what we want. I'm going to put a little print statement in here, guys. I'm going to do a couple of quotes just like that. And I'm going to hit enter and make a little space. The reason I did that is, does anybody know why I just did that? Well, I could write inside of it if I wanted to, but right now, when we run this thing and we see it in the shell, everything that we type in here is just going to be mushed line after line, and I just do that to make a little padding and spacing. So when you run this program over here, it gives us a little more open feeling over there. Things are a little less congested. It's totally unnecessary. You do not have to do that. I like to do it for myself when I'm making these, just to make sure when I run things over here, it doesn't look so ugly. All right, now let's write a real program where we get to input something. We haven't talked about variables yet, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a variable in. So right now, it's not super important if you've never heard of any of this before. You're just going to type along with me. We're going to use a variable called x, and we are going to put an equal sign there. That does not actually mean equals to. In Python, if you want to say something equals something else, you actually put two equal signs in there, just so you know. Okay? What that means, thank you, is, hey Joe, I got something for you. It's just a little note. What that equal sign means is that there's this variable called x, and we're going to assign something to it. And here's what we're going to assign. I want you guys to type int parentheses. Type in input. Okay? All right. Int means integer. Input means we're going to ask for an input, information from the user of the program. That means you or me. When we run this program, we're going to have to do something in here. Okay? Now I'm going to put another open parentheses. Don't close that parentheses, okay? Put another open one in there. And I'm in quotes. I want you to say, give me a number, okay? And then I'm going to put a colon in there, end my quotes, and now I'm going to do two closed parentheses. Okay, so as this program is being read, as we are reading this, I like to sometimes start in the inside parentheses. So here's what I've got. I have a string in here, a statement that's going to ultimately print out. It says, give me a number, okay? And what I'm asking for is this is going to be, I'm requesting input. So that's what this little input function says. The input is going to prompt me. It's going to say, give me a number, and it's going to request something. In our case, we're going to have to put a number in when we run this program. Now, outside of that parentheses, I've got this little int here, and that means whatever number I put in here, whether it's a decimal point or a huge number, it's going to just turn that, it's essentially round it off. It's going to turn it into a whole number or an integer. Okay, that's what that int does. That's a little more advanced than we'll get into when we first start with input things, but I wanted to be able to show you guys what some errors look like. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put a print statement in there. So, yeah, yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, right. And that is the case with Python. A negative number is an empty number. Right. Yeah. So, right. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's why we get a math teacher in here. Absolutely. All right, now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a print function in here, and I'm gonna put a statement what this program is gonna read, and it's gonna say 8 divided by, close those quotes there, comma. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put an X in there with no quotations around it. So what this is gonna do is whatever I inputted as the user, that number is going to become X. So if I input 3 here, this will print out 8 divided by, and in place of X, it's going to say 3. Okay? All right. Now, after that, I'm going to put a quotations with an equals, not a plus sign, an equal sign in there, because I actually want that to print out. If I don't put those quotations around it, Python is going to think I'm trying to assign a variable, which I am not trying to do. Okay, I'm going to separate that by a comma. And now I'm going to actually put my math function in here, which is actually very simple. I'm going to have 8, and I'm going to use the forward slash, that's division in Python, and then X. Okay, so again, it's going to replace whatever X is with whatever it is I inputted. So again, if I said X was 3, if I inputted 3, this will do 8 divided by 3. Now, I had to write 8 divided by X over here so that we could see that, because Python will not print out 8 over 3. It's actually going to say, hey, it's going to actually do the calculation and tell me what that is, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and close my parentheses. Okay, So now let's run this. Okay, so let's hit F5 once you've got it. And if I am going too fast, somebody let me know. Now notice what it says here. It's actually still running Wookie cookies because that's part of my program too, right? It gave me a little bit of space here, right there, because I put those empty quotation marks, and then it says give me a number, right? So that's what I need to do here. Now, if I put a number in, let's do that 3, like I mentioned before. I type a 3 in, and I hit enter. It says 8 divided by 3 equals 2.666 in perpetuity there, right? Okay, it worked. Great. All right, so far, our program is working just fine. But what if we do something that our program can't actually handle, right? What sort of division problem cannot be done? Simple division. Yeah, you can't divide by 0, right? So if I run this again, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna come over here, run it again. All right, now if I type in 0 and I hit something, notice that I've got a problem here. I definitely have an error in what I did. So I did not make an unbreakable program. I just broke my program, right? This simple little input here. And it's going to say 0 division error, division by 0. That cannot be done. This is what we call a runtime error. Why? Because there's no error in the syntax. The program can run, but I didn't account for everything that could be inputted there, in which case I've got a problem. Now, I wouldn't really want to do that in a program that I was, trying to give to somebody to actually be helpful, right? So we'd have to do some sort of workaround to be able to account for 0. And there are ways of doing that, but it's a little more complex than we're going to get into today, okay? So I'm going to keep this little program on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little hashtag in here to explain to ourselves that if x is 0, right, we will receive a runtime error. Now, sometimes it'll say runtime error, sometimes it won't. It just depends. Like a lot of times on here, it's going to say traceback. You're going to see that quite a bit. In this case, because dividing by 0 is a common problem, they actually have an error called 0 division error. But that is a runtime error. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Yep. And there's a really, have you ever seen the proof for that, by the way? It's fascinating. I had a math major roommate in college, and I asked him one day, I was like, hey, dude, what's the proof for the no dividing by 0? And he just like whipped it out, and I was like, that is really stinking cool because, it just doesn't seem like something you wouldn't be able to do. Go for it. Can we write a program that does it? No, that's cool. That's cool. No, do it. Do it. Do it. Exactly. So guys, what I did is I just took this and I Control C to copy it, right? And then I just went down here and I could do that again, right? So if I just need these first two bits, right? And Control V, just delete this line real quick here. All right, so I could rewrite my program, right? If I always made, not an O, but a 0, right? 0 divided by X, okay? And then I've got to switch this to 0, right? So this is going to be 0 divided by X. We just need to input a 0 in there, right? I mean, this program will still work with any other numbers we input in there as well, right? So we can go ahead and run that. We're going to have to go through this one again unless I just sort of, actually what I'm going to do is temporarily hashtag this guy so it won't run, okay? So I'm going to run that. Did anybody do it already? What does it do? It still gives me an error. Did you run it with another number? Run it with something else. What if I divide by 3? That works. 0 divided by 3 equals 0. Hmm. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. I like it. Well, and now, guys, you can see right away too just the flexibility of our programming here. It was no problem, right, to answer that question. At least as far as the computer is concerned, it was no problem for us to attempt to answer that question just by switching out some numbers here, right? Oh yeah, no. Right. That's okay. That's fun. That's fun. Alrighty, guys. Last thing is I want to show you guys the semantic error. I actually really like this little error. It's kind of fun to do. So we're going to write a program very similar to this little one right here, except instead of defining x, we are going to define a variable y. Okay, we're not really defining. We're going to set a variable to y or assign a variable to y. And we're going to do something similar. This time I'm going to put input. I'm not going to put anything in addition to that. We're going to request something again. And this time I'm going to say the same thing as I did before. Give me a number. Make sure you end your quotes and close your parentheses. Okay. So now I'm going to ask for the program user to put a number in there for me, and that number is going to be assigned to variable y. And I'm going to do another math problem, but this time I'm going to, instead of a division, I'm going to do a multiplication problem. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to say print. Okay, and now in quotes, because this is going to be a string, 5 times, I'm going to end my quotes there, put a comma in there. I'm going to assign variable y there. So remember, whatever I input in there, if I input 7, y is going to have a 7 there. So when we actually see the output of this program, it'll say 5 times 7. Okay. Going to put a comma in there. If we don't put that comma, we'll cause ourselves some grief. Okay. I'm going to put an equal sign in parentheses because I'm not assigning a variable. I just want it to actually print out equal or display equal. Okay. Comma. And now I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say 5 and times. Times is going to be our asterisk, okay, our little star. That's times in Python. And I'm going to say y, right? So what that should be is, if again, if that was 7, that would be 5 times 7. Python's going to calculate that, and it's going to spit out the answer. What is 5 times 7? 35, right? So the answer, so what should print out is 5 times 7 equals 35. Okay, now let's close that off, okay? And let's run that program. So here we go. I'm gonna F5, and it's actually gonna give me that 0 again, so I'm just gonna, this is that other program that was running already. All right, now notice it says, give me a number down here. So here's my second one. So let's just use my example of 7, okay? So I'm gonna say 7 in my input here. I'm gonna pull this down a little bit so we can see. Do you guys see that I inputted 7 down here? Give me a number. Now, watch what my answer is. Are you guys ready? 5 times 7 is 77,777. That is wrong. That is wrong. All right. So my program looks okay. And yeah, guys, by the way, when we're done here, I'll come back and help you if you're having some issues, okay? Did we have a question though? She did. What did she do different? Ah, did you? Did you put X in there instead of Y? Yes. Okay. We get. Ah. Okay. No problem. We'll hang out. Okay. So now this, guys, is a semantic error. Okay, so there's no problem with our code. It runs, so there's no syntax error. What we asked it to do is totally possible mathematically, so there's no error there. But it clearly did not give us the right answer. We all know that 5 times 7 is 35. Instead, it printed out 77,777. How many sevens are there, by the way? There's 5 of them, right? All right, so what's the problem here in our program? What is wrong with it? Why won't it give us 35? And in fact, if you want to just test, hey, is 5 times 7? So here in my shell, I can do 5, whoops, star, right? Asterisk 7. Just hit enter, and it says 35. So clearly, Python can do the math. There's not a problem here. Have you identified it, Python? Python, Peyton, have you identified it? What is it? So what does Python think my input is then? It's a string. So Python is reading that 7 not as being the integer 7, as being a string, as if I had typed in yes, okay? Typed in the word no. In fact, we could even try that out by running the program again. So hit F5, okay? Yeah, I'm actually gonna make this. I'm gonna put little hashtags around this so it doesn't run right now. Okay, and I'm gonna run this again. And this time it says give me a number, but what if I tell it no? What if I say no? N-O. I'm not going to give you a number. Look what it is. 5 times no equals no, 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 no. Give me a number. No, 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 no. All right. Oh, no problem. Well, I just said give me a number, but this time when I ran the program, I'll run it again here. Okay. This time when it said give me a number, I told it no. N-O. I typed in no. I'm not going to give you a number. And when I run the program, it just tells me that 5 times no is no, 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 no. No, no, what you do? Yeah. Yeah. Control C will get you out of there. All right. So anyway, we weren't clear enough with Python what we were asking it to do here. And generally, when you ask for an input in Python, it just automatically defaults to thinking that what you are inputting is a string. So it doesn't view it as being a number or an integer. So what we have to do is actually what I cleared up in the program before when I put that little int in front of it. So now if I take this program and I go back and I fix it, all right, I can put in int. I need to put an open parentheses, then I need to go back over here and close that parentheses out. This time, we should be good to go because now what Python is going to do is it's going to take whatever we input and it's going to assume it's an integer. Now, this is still far from being a perfect little program because we can still break this one pretty easily if we don't actually input a number. Okay. And there are ways of fixing that later. We'll see what that is. But now if I run this, okay, now it says give me a number. And I say 3. Now it says 5 times 3 equals 15. That looks a lot more reasonable. Things look okay now. Okay. It doesn't say 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Right? So anyway, that I just am showing you this now because I want you to understand that that's a classic semantic error. We expected one thing to happen, and something unexpected happened in place. The program ran, no problem. You saw even when I put in no, it still ran. And that's because I can actually do a multiplication 5 times whatever my input is, and it just prints that out 5 times, right? If I did that 50,000, it would print it out 50,000 times, as somebody over here found out, right? Is that what you did? 100,000. So it'll do that over and over again, okay? So anyway, I'm actually going to take this away now because I want you to have this semantic error program with you, okay? So I'm going to just put a little hashtag under here, and I'm going to put the program will run, okay? But the answer will not be correct, or at least expected, okay? All right, and so I'm just going to do another hashtag. This is a semantic error. All right, guys, that's it. Print out, answer those questions on there, and turn it in. We're going to get through chapter 1 today so we can get into the real nuts and bolts of programming, but this was kind of a fun little introduction to see some errors in action and to talk through some problem solving.